Remember, if you like the videos, like, sub, silly, comment, share, support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks. Maybe I should start off with this video that just because everyone can play a sport doesn't mean you deserve to be good at a sport, okay? Everyone can play the sport, but why do you get to be good at it? And, I feel like that's what a lot of these, I talk about. One of the problems with fighting games is people need to realize it's a competitive endeavor, and that's one of the best and worst things about it, right? Ultimately, there's going to be a winner and a loser, okay? So again, we're talking about these hitboxes things, and oh my god, these conversations are so fucking boring to me generally because no one brings any new perspective to the table. You know what I mean? I've already destroyed all your arguments. Like, how can I phrase my argument in another way that I've already said just to like get it through your like thick skull that you don't know what you're talking about, so to speak, right? I tried to use that hockey example, right? If we're talking about if the arcade sticks and our controllers are equipment and we're considering fighting games a sport, just like in other sports, we've seen that the sport you're playing was not designed now for the equipment that you're using. Hockey players started using too big of pads. Well, the game was not designed for you to use pads like that. Someone tried to say something like, oh, well, what about the offensive player? Clayton's using the goalie, but that doesn't mean about the offensive. Yes, there's illegal sticks in hockey too. Just like there's illegal bats in fucking baseball, dude. Every sport has fucking rules for the equipment that you use. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? The games that we are playing, if you're considering them a sport, were not designed with the equipment that you are trying to use for them, right? And people are trying to say like, oh, well, if Hitbox is a problem, then what about controllers? Yes, controllers are a problem. I had to teach myself as my health continued to get worse and I started losing the ability to use my hands in the same way. Just like how I had to teach myself a new way to work out to stay healthy. Because I know it's crazy to believe. I've never even lifted 50 pounds working out. I don't have the physical strength. So just like I had to teach myself a different way to work out, I had to teach myself to play on controller. And despite me playing on controller, I'm sure people, my stalkers, go stalk me, you motherfuckers. Go stalk me if you have big boobs and big lips and a big butt. You know what I mean? I'm sure some stalker can go back and look if you're fucking obsessed enough. When I was teaching myself to play on controller, I was a big, what is the English word I'm looking for? Advertiser or something or whatever, or more of a vocal voice that, dude, you cannot let us button bind with these controllers. I've even talked about some controllers. I remember during the PS3 days, there definitely was a controller that I was like, this controller should not be allowed in tournaments, right? So this idea that people are saying hitbox and controllers are just as bad too. Yes, controllers can be abused. You can abuse the equipment. That's why I always said when I was entering all those Guilty Gear tournaments and people were trying to eventually allow people to button map, I was like, you cannot allow people to button map in Guilty Gear. This is no longer a courtesy to the pad player. This is a abusable fact. Guilty Gear was not designed with all these different kind of moves and functions and techniques that you can do to have it be one button. You cannot allow pad players to button map. It doesn't matter. People, like I said, people gotta realize it doesn't matter if I'm actually a pad player, or it doesn't matter what kind of aspect of video games, you know what I mean? I can see the good and the bad, right? I'm more logical than you guys, right? I'm more honest and morally upright, justice, whatever the fuck, than so many of you fake motherfuckers, right? I know button mapping and binding is not fair in these games. So even though I had to teach myself to play on a controller, I refuse to use it for Guilty Gear. I'm like, fuck no. I don't even do it for combo videos, so I mean, give me a fucking break. So I've tried using these examples before. These games were not designed for the equipment and the techniques that you are now using, okay? I use that Carnum's Revenge example as we can see in this picture. We have the courtesy of, say, a pad player, whatever, 4 buttons. We take a move like Zazzy's bitch slap move, whatever. We take a move like Mizuguchi's blue DP, which is serendipitously, I always feel like it's such a great example because it's one of the most serendipitously best designed moves in fighting game history. It just is amazing the way that the move works. It's phenomenal. I don't know if it just is just a chance that it turned out the way it is, but it is, right? Mizuguchi's blue DP, whatever. Once in a blue moon, you might use it. It's a 4-button move, a motion 4-button move. But Zazzy, I'm sure you can go fucking watch a match. It's every couple seconds, every second, you are hitting 4 buttons. You are doing 4-button moves. This is no longer a courtesy to a pad player. This is direct executionally tied to how you can play the character. It is abusable when it is 1 button. There is no chance of missing, right? Just like Guilty Gear, FRCs, RCs, all these FDs, these things were not meant to be 1 button. The execution and ability to do the move is tied into how skilled you are. Having the dexterity to do these moves is a skill. No one is telling you that you can't play the fighting game. No one is telling you that you can't play the sport. But just like all sports, you do not deserve to be good at it. You do not deserve to be good at basketball if you were born short. Sorry, you can still play, but you don't deserve to be good. Sure, it fucking sucks that you're short and you don't get to be the millionaire, bajillionaire, Jesus fucking Christ, basketball player, right? You don't deserve it, dude. Like, yeah, I mean, I could use or get a deeper example. Do you think I want to be in and out of the hospital my fucking entire life? Knowing what it's like to wonder if I'm going to die as a fucking kid? It's not fair, but that's fucking life. And I had to teach myself different ways of doing things. If fighting games are a sport, there are rules. And obviously the equipment that you use, just like in any sport, can be abused, and some of it was not made for the games that you're playing. I've used the example of Street Fighter 4. We have a game like old school Street Fighter 2. How often do you complain about dragon punches, let's say, in Street Fighter 2? They're too invincible, they're not punishable enough, whatever, they're too powerful, whatever some Jimmy is complaining about. They have too much of an influence on the match. If we look at a game like Street Fighter 4, from just the properties of the move itself, the dragon punch, we can see the move is a complete form or shadow of itself in terms of the influence on the match if we're just looking at the properties of the moves. But because of how the game was designed, knowing that, the input method of the move is correlated with how strong it is, right? Despite Dragon Punches not being as invincible and all this other kind of stuff in Street Fighter 4, you still see people complain about Dragon Punches because they're so easy to do that you can mash them. There's almost no chance of missing it whatsoever. Now, of course, there's other caveats to it and other grains of salt. Of course, we know Dragon Punch is tied in with having a more influence on the match because of the way meter works, because of FDC and all this other kind of stuff. But what I'm getting at is you can see as games are progressing, as the input methods of moves are progressing, Capcom maybe in a sense was like, hey, having a move that is this easy to do, you know what I mean? We got to tone it down, because let's look at it like this. Again, I've talked about all this shit in all my game theory videos. Can you name any video game ever, any fighting game whatsoever, that where you have a dragon punch that is fully invincible and you never use a normal as an anti-air? I can't think of a single fucking game. Even in games where dragon punches are so completely powerful, so to speak, completely invincible, you still use normals as an anti-air sometime, right? Because of the input method, it's just a little bit, not as realistic to do, maybe different, of course, we could get really nitty gritty here about the spacing and everything, but sometimes it's just easier to hit a button. Even at the very highest level of fucking Street Fighter, whatever it is, any game with completely super powerful, there's almost no theoretical reason to ever not do the invincible move. You will still use the normal sometimes because you just physically cannot do a dragon punch as fast, right? Inputs matter, okay? So a game like Street Fighter 4, wow, the input matter is almost inconsequential in a game like Street Fighter 4. So maybe from a certain perspective, you could say we can't make this move completely invincible when the move is just this easy to do. And of course, again, I don't want to make the video too deep, but of course there's the whole problem of old school Street Fighter 2. There's the off chance that the game just eats your inputs sometimes. But, hopefully you are smart enough, obviously probably not for some of the people watching, to get what I'm getting at. A character like Guile's Sonic Boom. The Sonic Boom was not designed to be emotion. It was designed to be a charge move for how powerful it is. Moves were designed with the equipment that you can use and the execution that is required to do the move. When you are button binding in all these old games, when you are using your equipment that the game was not designed for, certain moves become too powerful. These characters become too powerful. This is not how the game was designed to be played. Right? So again, people trying to make that argument like, oh god, well Clayton says Hitbox, but some of these controllers are broken that you can do this. I fucking know. And I fucking already said it. I'm ahead of you. I'm miles above the conversation. Your conversation has already been talked about. I'm already off like Ryu. I've already won the conversation tournament where you were fighting for second and third place. Clayton has already won, and he has already won the next conversation that you are going to bring up. Do you remember that fucking idiot LK? Do you remember when LK made 4 videos in a row trying to act like I don't know what I'm talking about? And each video, he tried to move his argument saying I was wrong. And I'm like, if you actually go back and look, I already beat his argument. I beat his argument 4 videos ago right when he started. That's how fucking far above I am than you guys, dude. Your arguments, I beat your arguments for the next so many years, dude. It's over. At the end of the day, again, it just gets to people want to believe that they should be the best. That, I'm deserved. I've had the hard life. I needs to be the best. I shouldn't have, execution should not be a factor of a video game. It is. If fighting games are a sport, just like any sport, everyone is allowed to play the sport. But not everyone is allowed to automatically be good at it. You don't deserve to be good at it. It's ridiculous. Complete coping. And then people, and like I said, some guy tried to bring up the button thing again to me. Can you believe it? It's just so obvious people do not watch the video. Some guy actually tried to bring up the button thing. Have you watched the videos? The button thing, that's one of the ironies of the game community, that I've already destroyed your argument. We've talked about buttons. Oh, Street Fighter has too many buttons. Oh, we got to make less buttons. Oh, but since there's less buttons, now we need to make, multi-button pressing moves. Oh, well, fuck, I don't want to press multi-button moves because now we're bringing more execution into it. Can we bring back those buttons and then can we button bind those buttons? I've already fucking exposed that argument. The complete hypocriticalness and irony. You have no idea what you're talking about. I'm going to be, like, I do these, like, videos and I don't know how people talk about video games so much. Like, I consider myself a nerd, and even talking about video games as much as I do is draining and boring because no one brings any new argument or new perspective onto anything. It's like your arguments have all been destroyed already. You try to bring up a new argument and it's like, dude, your argument was destroyed in the video if you actually were listening. You can't follow. I wanted to make a joke about a song. Wait, what's that song? I already did the assignment. What's that? I already did the assignment. I don't know what the fuck is that song. I already did the assignment. Fuck you. I need to do no FGC on NPC video. I'm forgetting how to do the voices. The voices are fucking hard. Fuck me.